Greetings, Bass listeners. This is Greg, and we have to start episode number 307 of Basically a Sports Show with a bit of a disclaimer. Unfortunately, during our last recording session, we had major technical problems with the Skype call. As a result, we lost significant portions of the show and, unfortunately, Zach's tabs. So, what we're going to do this week is give you what we were able to pull from the wreckage and try to piece together at least a little bit of a show. We appreciate your patience and apologies again for the technical problems. Here is what's left of Basically a Sports Show, number 307.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And download every episode and more at basicallyasportshow.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg,
Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
I'm telling you, man.
I'm not built for this.
It's been raining for 2 straight days.
Oh, no, the rain's coming our way now, too.
You know? I mean, 2 days, like nonstop. The rain's like come and gone, but it's been cloudy for 2 days. It hasn't been above like 63 since, I think, Monday. It's terrible. I mean, God, come on.
I mean, at least I could say about like the rain that at least Zach needs the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had the snowpack in the mountains is the thickest it's been in 5 years.
That's good, right?
Yeah. That means that snow will eventually melt and become water.
It means that California is no longer facing imminent collapse due to water shortage.
Yes.
Could be worse. You could be drinking Flint, Michigan's water.
Oh, God.
Tell me about it.
What the fuck happened there?
Dude, it's Flint. I'm surprised that it's not worse than it is.
The water's just not... You're surprised that when people are turning on their taps, it's just not fire shooting out?
Or something like that. I mean...
That's just ridiculous, though.
It is. And it's been going on for years, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
They switched over from...
The pipes don't switch to lead overnight.
Yeah, the lead, but they switched water sources, like 5 years ago, and that was a problem. And then they find out that there's lead in the water. And Flint is just, I don't know what Flint did to piss off God, but it must have been a doozy.
Between this and their hockey and the drama of their like OHL team, it's just...
What is their OHL team called? There used to be the Flint Generals in the IHL.
Firebirds?
Yeah, the Flint Firebirds.
I went to a game in Flint one time to see the Gold Diggers play in the playoffs, and oh my God.
Well, you heard about. I think we even talked about on the show the drama with the Firebirds, how like the owner basically just bought a team,
right,
so his son could play. Yeah,
no, we talked about it.
But yeah, it was Flint's not a nice place. It's and I remember, I think it was in that. I don't think it was an old documentary called Roger and Me from Michael Moore. It was like his first famous documentary, and Flint just got devastated by the 80s recession, the automotive industry, and all that. And one of their solutions was they were going to build an indoor amusement park called Auto World. Now, you can imagine how that went over. And it was just a major failure. I don't know if they've ever gotten any better, but when I saw the water thing, I was not at all surprised.
Last time I was in Flint, I was driving through it on my way to East Lansing for a concert.
Oh, who'd you go see?
Electric Six.
You drove all the way to East Lansing to see Electric Six?
It's like only like a 4-hour drive from where I'm at.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah. So, we drove through Flint. Drove by the Firebird Arena.
Yeah. Is it an old place? Or did they build a new one?
It's. I think it's one of the older places.
Okay, because
they couldn't be the Generals though, because the Oshawa Generals are in the OHL. So.
Well, we being the witty souls that we were back in the early '80s. They were the Flint Genitals is what we referred to them as.
That Ohio State education.
I hadn't gone to Ohio State yet at that point, so
okay.
Can't blame that one on Ohio State.
University of Toledo.
There you go. It was a pretty big, it was fun. I mean, it was minor league hockey. It was the IHL, but it was fun. I mean, there were some intense rivalries between Toledo and Flint, and Toledo and Fort Wayne was our big rival.
The Comets?
Or the Vomits, as we so elegantly put it.
You guys were just firing on all cylinders.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Letting off rockets.
Yeah. And And then Saginaw had a team too. But they weren't really a big deal.
Oh, now they're the Spirit.
I think
in the OHL, and last I heard, they actually had named their mascot after Stephen Colbert. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
but not the Diggers, the Walleye, Toledo's. They're in the ECHL now, right?
Yes,
Does that sound right? Yeah.
The ECHL that no longer stands for anything, that it's just ECHL.
It doesn't. It used to be East Coast Hockey League, right?
Yeah, but the initials don't stand for anything anymore. The name of the league is the ECHL.
Ah.
It's not the East Coast Hockey League. It is the ECHL.
Well, it's kind of a stretch to say Toledo's on the East Coast.
It's also a stretch to say Anchorage, Alaska is in.
I'd also say it's a stretch to say that most of the teams in the NHL's Atlantic Division are actually on the Atlantic. But, there it is.
Well, and again, to say that Columbus and Raleigh are metropolitan areas.
Yeah. Depends on your definition of metropolitan. If you broaden it enough, I suppose. But when you're comparing it to, say, New York, Boston, Philly, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's metropolitan to somebody in, I don't know, somewhere that's not metropolitan, but smaller town.
But speaking of the divisions,
yes,
Zach, either last week or week before, you mentioned how it would be cool if they gave each division their own logo for the All-Star game.
Yeah.
It appears as if that is actually a thing.
Wow, Zach, I would ask somebody for some money out of this because that was your idea.
Unfortunately, it is not nearly as cool as...
Is it just NHL Shield with a letter in it?
Kind of.
Oh.
Here's the link. Here is the link. It has all four. They are properly underwhelming.
Let's see here. Come on, mouse. I like it's in Nashville. I like the guitar pick touch. I think that's cool, but I'm a guitarist, so of course Okay.
But they're all the same.
Right.
Well, here's what I see: the Atlantic Division, and I see ATL. I think Atlanta.
No, and there's the Met.
Oh, shit.
ATL Division.
My fucking mouse is not working.
Sen
Division. The Sen Division. The Pack Division.
Come on.
Would this be the Pack 8?
I get it. And they just made them the same color as the conference logos.
Mm-hmm.
But these aren't going to be used anywhere.
No, they're not. Although
they're going to be like a patch on the jersey at least.
Are they official?
They are official, yes. Now the thing is that I'm actually willing to give the NHL the benefit of the doubt on this one for this year because I kind of get that. Everything about the way that the All-Star Identity package has been put together says to me that they were intending this to be a standard not East West because they haven't done that in a few years, but a standard 2-team All-Star game until fairly late in the process where they made the switch over to this 4-division 3-on-3 tournament. My thinking is that's why we only have 2 sets of jersey. Why we only have one set of jerseys, only 2 jerseys, and why these logos are kind of coming out with we're just days away from the game. In my opinion, next season we're going to have more fleshed out logos, more interesting all-star uniforms. I just get the sense that at the start of the season this was not the plan, and then it became the plan.
Yeah, these logos are useless, really. They're not going to be on the jerseys. Maybe they're on merchandise if you want to represent the ATL division.
You know what? As a Maple Leafs fan, my Atlantic Division pride is strong. Toronto has a long and storied history being an Atlantic port city, so
Well, in those long-standing rivalries with the Florida Panthers.
Oh yeah. I mean,
you throw out the record books when those two get together.
Exactly right. I mean, come on.
You guys knocking on my Florida Panthers, are you?
Your Florida Panthers.
I guess. I don't know.
Sure, whatever.
Florida Panthers #1 fan, Greg.
If I had to pick a Florida team, I'd probably go with the Lightning, I think, out of the two.
No, I'm just waiting. In a year's time, Lightning Panther games will look like Maple Leaf Habs games, so that's fun.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Mike, I hear you've got Geek Show news.
Yes, Geek Show news.
Let's hear it.
Jack and I have been talking, kind of tying into why we I don't want to say we put it on ice so much as it just kind of became
on ice.
We were just going to have the show when news popped up. It's just one of those cases where just geek-related stuff, there's just not necessarily enough to do it week by week every day. Week by week, because they're just dry months, as there are with sports, more so of geek-related stuff. We've decided that we are going to, I don't want to say refocus the show, but we're just going to broaden it. It's still going to be basically a geek show, but we are going to open it up a bit more as to what we can discuss on it. There's still going to be, your standard geek fare on it, but we're also going to merge the paranormal specials that we've been doing into it.
Oh, cool.
So, we're not going to have basically a paranormal show specials. It's just that some days on basically a geek show we'll talk about paranormal stuff.
So you guys are really taking it to the fringes of society here then, huh? That's cool.
All
right.
It's also going to be just a bit broader, I guess, in terms of what topic we might even delve into politics at some point.
No. We already decided that we're doing the primary show.
Oh no. That's still
as an offshoot of Bass here.
No. Oh no. That's still on. That's
okay.
Still.
When is the Iowa caucus anyway?
It's this weekend, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think so. I know they're doing
we're running out of January.
They're doing a debate on Fox, and
Donald Trump is
not going to participate because he can't look Megyn Kelly in the face, I guess. He feels that Fox has given him an unfair shake so far.
Wait a minute. He says that Fox has given him an unfair shake?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's instead of doing the debate, he's doing some veterans thing on CNN.
Okay. Is he still leading in the polls? I haven't really been paying attention. Oh, my God.
Yeah, he's having a fierce battle with Ted Cruz of all fucking people.
Oh, my God.
But
I am almost ashamed to call myself an American right now with the candidates that we have on both sides. I mean, this isn't just Bernie Sanders is okay, but he's never going to make it through the general because
he's not going to inspire a nation to
because
revitalize itself.
Bernie Sanders is that uncle every Jewish person has.
He's Larry David.
He's Larry David, right? Yeah,
he's Larry David.
He really is. Yeah.
He's not going to be anything more than what he is, I guess, in terms of support. It's just not going to happen. I know he's really close to Hillary in the Iowa primaries, but then you look at the polling for New Hampshire and South Carolina, which are the other two big important primaries, and Hillary is so far ahead of those, it's not even funny.
Oh, see, I'd heard that Bernie was winning in New Hampshire in the polls, but not so much, huh?
No, last polls I saw show that Hillary had New Hampshire locked up, but yeah.
Well, New Hampshire is nutty because you can go into it a week ahead of time and the polls will look one way. Well, Hillary did it was it in 2008? I guess, yeah, where they thought she was done, and she came out of nowhere to win the New Hampshire primary. And hell, her husband did it in 92. You guys probably don't remember, but he was on life support, and he went out and just went to the streets. That was where he came up with the "I'm going to fight until the last dog dies." I don't know if you've ever heard that quote of his. That's where it came from New Hampshire, where he just stepped in and just hit the pavement and ended up winning. So Bernie Sanders, the problem with him is that if he does get the nomination, you are not going to go 5 minutes without hearing a Republican commercial that has Bernie Sanders and socialist in it every 30 seconds, And that's what they're going to tag him with that. And I think he's even on record as saying he's a socialist.
Yeah.
And you throw that out there in front of the general public in a general election, and he's doomed. It's as simple as that.
No, I'm still holding out hope that it's going to be Trump versus Sanders. Let's get it on. Let's do it, America. Trump, Sanders. America decides for the last time.
Yeah, probably. Probably. I think if that
It's just
happens,
like-
we're going to join our Key West brethren here and just we'll take Ormond Beach and just secede from the Union and become our own country.
Seriously.
I mean, at that point, if it's Trump Sanders, at that point, the United States political scene has just evolved into Gong Show at that point.
You know, while we're talking about this, I was watching a Bill Maher clip on YouTube today, and he brought up Jerry Brown. And what do you think of him, Zach? I mean, seriously, because Bill Maher loves him, and I thought, well,
No.
okay,
No.
okay, did he? Because Maher's claiming that he fixed California, and I thought, well, I don't know that a governor has that kind of power, but okay,
No.
okay,
Especially considering, like, this is the second go-around in California.
yeah, I know he was in the 70s, I think, maybe something
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
He wasn't great the first time. He's a very liberal Democratic governor.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously going to be swayed one way or another by that. But I also don't think it would be hard for anybody to fix, quote unquote, California after what Arnold Schwarzenegger did as a governor.
Are you saying the governor wasn't a good governor?
He was okay for a little while, and then it's like he overstayed his welcome kind of thing.
Yeah, see, I'd heard that he did okay in his first term, but after that, it kind of went downhill. Does that sound about right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you miss Gary Davis?
What was it? No, that was his name was Gray Davis, wasn't it?
Gray Davis.
Okay, Gray Davis.
Gray Davis, yeah.
The guy before Schwarzenegger, who was
The guy who we kicked out of office and had this ridiculous...
wasn't he the blackout guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
His pitch for why he shouldn't be thrown out of office was like, we haven't had a blackout in like 2 weeks. It's like, in 2 weeks your lights haven't gone out.
Hey, you got to take the small victories and build, right?
California, a land of golden women and blackouts.
God.
Yeah, the political structure of California has always been a bit of a mess. Just there's too many people to like.
There's too many people.
I mean, it's like governing a country, right?
Mm-hmm. Wasn't it like it's like the 9th largest economy in the world by itself? Something like that?
It's not even that. I just mean in terms of the people. It's the most populous state in the country.
Right.
And like the areas of California are all so vastly different from each other.
Oh, yeah.
You have the very liberal northern end of California. You have the Central Valley, which is all farmers and workers and things like that. And then you have Southern California, which is kind of like, yeah, whatever, man. Just don't screw up our vibes.
Stan Kroenke's awesome, dude.
Yeah, and the North tends to screw up our vibes more often than not. So
that sounds like Florida, kind of like when you live on the beach, it's like just don't mess with our vibe, and then you get inland and it turns into Georgia basically.
Orange farmers.
Yeah.
Orange. I imagine inland Florida is all just like orange farmers and alligator swamps.
Well, I'm going to see it for the first time tomorrow because my brother and his wife and my niece and nephew are coming up from Key West to visit my mom, who lives in Brooksville, which is on the other side of the state. Which in Florida, going across state's no big deal. It's going north and south is where it takes a long time. So I get to drive through Ocala and a couple other like little burbs along the way. So I get to see inland Florida for the first time in my life, and I'm really curious to see what that's going to be like because I got a feeling it's going to be a lot different than where we are over here.
Start a Confederate flag counter, see what happens.
I'll do that. I won't keep an exact count, but I bet you I see at least 30, probably.
At least 30.
Yeah, and in a 2-hour drive, I'm going to see 30.
Bumper stickers also count for that too, just so you know.
Yeah. But but Jerry Brown, I went and saw him when he was campaigning in '92 at Syracuse University, and I just thought he was funny. I don't know that that's exactly what you're looking for in a president, but he made some good jokes.
I can tell you what's going to happen on the Democratic end because it's going to be Hillary on the main. Hillary's going to be the nominee, and she's going to select Bernie as her running mate, and it's going to be Hillary Bernie.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't think she'll go with him as a running mate because, again, same reason, the socialist tag. And that's just poison in a general election.
Yeah, but it's mitigated if he's just the VP. Like then it's not gonna. It's not like he's going to be president. So I think he'd be helpful just to because Hillary's kind of a centrist Democrat, and then she can get Bernie on there and get all of the radical people on the left to come out who may not have voted for her to come out to vote if Bernie's on the ticket?
See, I think that the lefties, well, they're not. The way I look at it is like this. They're not going to vote Republican. So the worst thing they can do is either vote third party, which at the end of the day, if it's close, they're not going to throw away their vote on a third party candidate.
I don't know. A lot of people
they won't want Trump to win. See, Trump's the thing that's going to keep.
A lot of people threw their vote away on Ralph Nader and probably cost Al Gore the presidency.
They absolutely did. Absolutely did. Yeah. But I just think if Trump gets the nomination, and I don't know what I think, what would we do? I mean, my God, how could we even? I don't know. I don't know what I'd say about that.
No,
like President Trump.
It can't happen. Is basically the long.
Yeah. But people were saying it couldn't happen that he'd get the Republican nomination, and God damn it looks like he.
Well, I don't mean that in the sense of no, that can't happen. It's no,
we can't let this happen.
This can't happen. We can't do this.
Didn't people see what he did to the USFL? For God's sakes, come on. They should make everybody watch Small Potatoes, the whatever that thing was called, the Who Killed the...
Speaking of documentaries, I just want to say, kind of, I guess to get us more firmly on sports ground, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot to say political-wise on our primary special, but politics-wise, I mean. But did any of you two catch the Montreal Expos documentary on MLB Network?
No.
I didn't, no.
I have to see it, though. Was it good?
It was very good.
Yeah, cool.
It was very good. I was mostly urged to watch it at the request of my dad, who grew up in Montreal, who was a big Expos fan himself, and watching it, I kind of I've always been a Blue Jays fan, but watching it, I was kind of like, oh, I kind of want the Expos back.
They were cool. Everybody loved. Well, I shouldn't say everybody, because if everybody loved them, they'd still be there, but. The Expos were just like this cool team that no one disliked, I should say. You never heard anybody go, man, I hate the Expos. They were cool. And just the coolest, I love the pinwheel hat. I thought they were great.
Well, no, they just talked about how Montreal being a very French city, the vibe of the Expos was always kind of a bit different. Like
city, go Expos. Mm.
Pretty much.
Vive les Expos.
Which I found funny. Which is pretty funny considering that the reason why Pedro Martinez. Which is funny because if you try to say a Spanish name in French, it just kind of sounds Spanish anyway.
Yeah, really.
But it's one of those cases where I don't know. It was weird because on one hand they're playing up like the whole Frenchness, making the Expos this really unique team, but on the other hand, it's sort of like. The reason why the Expos would realistically never work today is because Quebec expelled all of their Anglophones, and that was like a good 80% of their fan base was the English population.
Didn't the ownership though? I mean, basically they just kind of let them fall apart. I mean,
it was their last owner, Jeff Loria, who currently owns the
Marlins, right?
The Marlins,
yeah.
He was the one who let them fall apart because it was basically a deal where it was like, I'll sink the team and then I'll sell them to baseball, to Major League Baseball, and then I'll get the Marlins and Major League Baseball can relocate them to Washington.
Because if you look at that the strike year team, they had the best record in baseball, and if you look at the roster of that team, they were loaded, man. I mean, they had. I think Pedro was still pitching for him then. Larry Walker was on that team. I don't think – was Vlad up yet? I don't remember.
No, he wasn't. I don't think so.
But they were really, really good. And it was just like you could just tell that they were just not making any effort to try to keep that team in Montreal. Kind of a shame. But
no. I mean, the biggest – well, I would – the biggest –
what?
The biggest –
Sorry.
The biggest – obstacle is, I'm going to continue to harp on it, the fact that the Anglophone population of Montreal is a shadow of its former self, and you're just not going to sell professional baseball, long term without a strong Anglophone fan base, because they were by far the biggest supporters of the team. Other than that, it comes down. You need a new stadium. Olympic Stadium is a dive.
Oh, it was terrible. There were chunks of the ceiling falling off of it and all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
So you need a new stadium, and there's no real will for public money on that front. So it would have to be entirely privately financed, and that means that you don't just need like someone who can afford to buy the team, who can afford to buy a team and move them. It's you need someone who can afford to buy a team, and then build his own stadium,
and then try to survive on 18,000 fans a game if they're lucky.
Yeah.
Because we are French, we must smoke our cigarettes and be aloof, not take baseball. No.
And then you'd probably even have to allow smoking in the ballpark.
If you're going to have a French crowd, you're going to have to, yeah.
Oh yeah, no. The entire city of Montreal is. I love Montreal, but the entire city is an ashtray. Yeah. And I don't mean that in the sense that it's dirty. I mean that in the sense that there is cigarette smoke everywhere.
Yeah. So do we want to talk any Super Bowl 50?
I'm down for talking Super Bowl 50. Zach?
Sure.
Okay. Are we hyped? Are we fired up?
I'm actually hyped.
Yeah.
No. So what do you guys think about the fact that the Broncos are opting to wear their white jerseys because they apparently think the orange ones are cursed?
We talked about it on the football show. I don't know. It's got a 50-50 chance of working, basically. I think Zach had a statistic he wanted to point out to you, Mike, too, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mike, this is important.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to leave this with you, that Peyton Manning is 3-2 in the playoffs against Tom Brady now. He has a winning record against Tom Brady in the playoffs.
So does Eli Manning. I don't think anyone's going to argue that Eli's the better quarterback.
I'm just putting it out there that Peyton Manning's beat Tom Brady more often than not in the playoffs.
Tom Brady can't hear you with his Super Bowl rings in his ears.
Oh, I knew it was just a matter of time before that happened.
Tom Brady was also a big suck-up. Did you see what he did?
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Unruffled by that minor setback, we try phase 2.
Okay.
All right, where were we?
Zach was talking about Tom Brady, a handwritten note from Tom Brady that I still don't know what it was about because
it was
blew up.
The world ended right in the middle of the call. Okay, go ahead.
Well, obviously after the game, Tom Brady hand wrote a note out to the fans to thank them for supporting them all season, and you got to go through the bad times to get to the good. So we'll see you next year. Love, Tom Brady.
Oh, what's wrong with that? That seems like a classy letter from a classy man.
You know the last time I remember a professional athlete thanking the fans for his support through a handwritten note that he posted on social media?
Would that be Alex Rodriguez?
That would be Alex Rodriguez and the Yahis.
The Yahis.
Okay, at least though, this is Tom Brady being like, "Thanks for your support." It's not Alex Rodriguez being like, "I was kicked out of the league for a year." But
right, I know. I was just.
I think
Tom Brady's a little girl. He probably
did he dot the I's of hearts?
Unconfirmed.
Unconfirmed. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, whatever. Peyton's still got to avoid the last Super Bowl happening again. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah. I would like to see him win this to go out on top. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. Well, I've got a friend of mine who is pulling for the Broncos, and I'm gonna read the text because he says it better than I ever could.
Okay.
Could paraphrase. I'm pulling for Peyton and the Broncos, if only because Eli Manning is a mouth breather who got drafted on name recognition alone and bumbled his way to 2 rings. Peyton winning is going to put the universe back in order.
Poor Eli.
Now, I'm not a fan of Eli by any stretch of the imagination for obvious reasons, but calling him a mouth breather who got drafted on name recognition alone. I'd say is a bit unfair.
Yeah, well, wasn't he the number 1 overall pick?
He was.
Or
the Chargers drafted him, even though they said he wasn't going to play for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he got traded for Phillip Rivers and Sean Merriman, ultimately, I think.
Yeah, he did.
So the draft pick became.
Yeah. Which, truth be told, worked out well. I mean, the whole thing is everyone's like, "Oh, Eli Manning has 2 rings. But it sucks to be you, Chargers." I'm like, yeah, he probably wouldn't have any if he went to the Chargers. And Phillip Rivers would probably have 2 rings if he went to the Giants. If we're being perfectly honest about it.
Wow, you know what? I'd like that Giants team with Phillip Rivers. That might have been interesting to watch. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that, the Chargers had a window where they were a bona fide Super Bowl contender, and Phillip Rivers wasn't the reason that they didn't win.
No.
Yeah. They got to the AFC Championship game that one year and lost to the Patriots at home, right?
Was he?
A couple seasons earlier, they had that 14-2 season and lost to the Patriots in the divisional round. But it's one of those cases where it's like, in neither case was it like Phillip Rivers was the reason you lost. No, Phillip Rivers was, the all-star caliber quarterback you needed a Super Bowl contender to have. Like, he wasn't the problem. The problem in the 14-2 season, actually, the problem in both seasons was coaching. 14-2 because Marty Schottenheimer turtled in the playoffs.
Well, Marty Schottenheimer in the playoffs, he approached the playoff game like, if I can get a field goal early and hold on the rest of the way. That was his philosophy.
We're up 3-0, guys.
Yep.
Okay, hold them. No. Marty Schottenheimer for the 14-2 season, they lost to the Pats in the divisional game. That was Marty Schottenheimer just being really conservative. And then the year that they made it to the AFC title game and lost to the Pats, that was the year that the Pats were undefeated.
Is that they made the AFC title? I don't remember that. That's cool.
They played. That was the year, actually, I think, that they beat the Colts. They pulled a win out of their ass against the Colts earlier. Because that was for that 5-year span where the Chargers had the Peyton Manning voodoo doll.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, for a couple of seasons, Peyton Manning could not just beat the Chargers, and I was convinced that Dean Spanos had a voodoo doll that he was poking pins in. But that year, the reason they couldn't win was just because it was Nerve Turner who was the coach, and even though they made it to the AFC title game, they made it to the AFC title game despite Norv Turner, not because of him. And goddamn, did he make up for lost time in that game?
Yeah.
But
what happened to the Chargers? It wasn't that long ago. They were pretty good. And now they're terrible.
I can tell you exactly what happened. Marty Schottenheimer built a great team. Mm-hmm. A great team he was unable to do anything with because he's mentally incapable of getting to the Super Bowl once he makes the playoffs.
Ain't that the truth?
So you had Schottenheimer, who put together a great team but couldn't do anything with it. So they get rid of him. Then they bring in Norv Turner. Turner has a Super Bowl contender handed to him, manages to get to the playoffs for a couple of years just because of how loaded that team was. But then as time goes on, he slowly starts making it his own, and the whole thing degrades the more Turner sinks his teeth into it. And then by the time Spanos wises up and fires Turner, the damage has already been done, and it's a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
That's basically what happened to the Chargers. I mean, ideally, after Schottenheimer, anyone would have been better than Norv Turner, to be perfectly honest. But
didn't Marty? Didn't he take the Chiefs to the AFC title game once or twice too when he was coaching there?
Was he the coach when?
I think Montana was there, right?
Yeah. I remember I don't remember any of the early '90s Super Bowls. That was a bit before I started paying attention to these things. But I do remember around '97, '98. I bought a book. It was like a history of the Super Bowl book, and it was basically a book version of those NFL Films Super Bowl specials, where it each chapter was like a quarter by quarter breakdown of every Super, and it was done in this narrative style. It was really awesome. But it covered every Super Bowl up till I think 31, which is when the Packers beat the Patriots.
Yep.
And I remember reading, and this just stood out, that the second time that the Bills played the Cowboys, that was like the worst matchup because the Bills played the Chiefs in the AFC title game. The NFC title game was 49ers versus Cowboys, and everyone was pulling for Chiefs versus 49ers so you could see Steve Young versus Joe Montana.
Yeah.
And
you got to be a hell of a coach to not be able to make the Super Bowl with Joe Montana as your quarterback.
And so I guess that was just a case where Schottenheimer, the Chiefs probably got a field goal in the first quarter, and he turtled. But
he was a guy that if you could have found a way to like let him coach the regular season and turn it over to somebody else for the playoffs, the Browns would have 3 Super Bowl wins, maybe 2. I don't think they could have beaten the Giants in '86, but I think they would have won the other. '89 they would have gotten killed. Okay, so they would have won 1. And then
the Chargers, I think, would have. I think the Chargers, if Marty Schottenheimer could have been tricked, if you could have tricked Marty Schottenheimer so he didn't realize he was in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like just tell no, Marty, it's a new season format. It's a 20-game season. No, it's week 19, Marty. It's not the play. What are you talking about playoffs? Like if you could have gotten him to coach that Chargers team like he did in the regular season, honestly, that team. 14-2. I think they won like their last 12 games in a row that season. Mm-hmm. I think that team would have won a Super Bowl if they could have somehow just not Schottenheimered.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes. So,
Greg knows all about Schottenheimers.
Oh, God, tell me about it. Yeah,
but
it's still amazing that they had that comeback against Denver in '87, where they actually got close enough to tie the game with him coaching, but. Anyways, let's talk about the current Super Bowl here. So, I had a question we were talking about when you brought up the Colts. So, Zach, are you noticing any change of allegiance since you've gotten your Rams back here? Or are you still pretty much split down the middle?
It's hard to tell because nothing's really happening as far as players or. I mean, guys are getting elected to the Pro Bowl, and so I noticed, Aaron Donald and Todd Gurley, they're on separate teams. They're going to face off in the Pro Bowl.
So I got a question. Will Todd Gurley be listed as a St. Louis Ram or a Los Angeles Ram in the Pro Bowl? Because that's interesting.
I don't know.
I mean,
well, technically, he played the season for St. Louis, right?
But the team is now officially the Los Angeles Rams.
Right. Huh. That's a good question.
And he will be a Los Angeles Ram for the foreseeable future.
Right. I don't know. I guess I would just, if it were me, I'd just be like, he's just with the Rams, and I wouldn't mess with it.
Yeah, because NFL.com just has the teams listed as what team they're on, not the city.
Yeah.
That's probably by intent. But
I don't think it has anything to do directly with that, but yeah.
I guess technically he's a Los Angeles Ram now, right? But they haven't moved yet. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's interesting. But
now, I will say that football. I think Zach, you're in a good position because football and baseball are the 2 easiest sports to have. 2 teams if you divvy it up by league or conference.
Yeah,
because there's less interplay between the AL and NL and AFC and NFC than there is between the East and West in both basketball and hockey.
The Rams and Colts are only going to play each other once every 6 years, maybe,
if that. Yeah, depending on how the schedule. I mean, because they do the first, second, third place schedules and all that, they could go a long, long time without facing each other.
And you've got to have, and you would have to have really bad luck, played each other in the Super Bowl. I mean, that's shot in the dark.
I think he's going to end up being a Rams fan full time. I think the Colts are going to be a pretty easy habit to kick. Honestly,
if they don't improve on this season, yes.
Well, no, I think because it's
where the highlight is we managed to beat Jacksonville in overtime.
He's going to be, the team's going to be where he lives. That's going to be who gets all the local coverage, and I think he'll just slide right over into being a Rams fan. That's my guess. I guess we'll find out next season.
Yeah, I guess
a teaser for Bass episode number 377. Tune in.
But Super Bowl 50. I'm actually excited. I believe someone said that this is the first time actually that the Super Bowl will be contended between 2 number 1 draft pick quarterbacks.
That sounds about right. I'm trying to think real quick here. Like number 1 overall picks, right?
Yeah, number 1 overall.
Yeah, I probably. I mean, I don't
for first, I think it is first overall picks. Excuse me. Then we also have the largest age discrepancy between the two quarterbacks.
Here's my thing.
Denver's record 8 Super Bowl ties the record.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose, they'll also be the first team to lose 5 Super Bowls.
Who, Denver?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be 6 if it's their 8th one. They've only won 2.
Oh, then 6. Yeah.
God,
yeah.
That'd be a tough thing. Well, you know what though? As long as you get the 2 wins, I don't think how many you lose really matters, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you're not the Vikings. You're not 0-4 or the Bills. You know,
Bills.
You got those 2 that you've got. So after that, it's no big deal.
Right. Well, and that's kind of where it plays back to if Peyton Manning is the second Super Bowl ring. If you have 2 Super Bowl rings as opposed to the one and you lost 5 others or lost 3 others, and it's like,
yeah.
If you have 2, it's okay. Yeah, you're fine now.
See, I just don't get how 1 extra Super Bowl win is going to make that much of a difference in his perception, but it's going to.
No, and especially because you look at the game they played last week, and I think the one thing that I think made more evident than any for people that are arguing on the Peyton Manning side of things is how much of a team game football really is.
Yeah.
Right? Because Peyton Manning didn't win the AFC Championship game for the Broncos.
No.
It was the defense, right? So, you look back at all those years when he didn't win Super Bowls or got knocked out in the playoffs, and it's like, well, it's not always his fault. Win or lose, it's not always the quarterback's fault that a team wins or loses. It's, there's still a lot of extra units that have to put their due in.
I would say that was last Super Bowl where Seattle cut them. I don't know if a failing like the entire team failed. I think Peyton Manning definitely didn't have his best game. That was a big part of it. But I think the entire team just sort of.
Are you losing him?
Okay, you're still there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let me stop.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're roboing on us here.
Oh.
I guess you've taken over the new robo role. You there?
All right, hang on just a second.
All right.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Unruffled by that minor setback, we try phase 2.
Okay.
All right. What were you going to say, Mike?
No, I was just going to say that I think in the Broncos' last Super Bowl outing, it wasn't Peyton Manning. I think Peyton Manning had a bad game, but I think the entire team had a bad game. So it was like the entire Broncos team just imploded.
You look at, you talk, everybody likes to hang the Super Bowl thing on the quarterbacks, but if you look back over the Super Bowl history, there are guys like Brad Johnson, Jeff Hostetler, quarterbacks that they've got
Trent Dilfer.
Trent Dilfer. He's like the perfect example, really. But
Trent Dilfer, Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. So Peyton's been there. What's his 5th time now? I think.
Oh,
let's see, lost fourth time.
Twice with the Colts. This is the 2nd time with the Broncos.
Yeah. So he got the 1 win with the Colts against the Bears, but can you really credit him with that? It just, to me, it's just like I don't like it.
Did Peyton Manning win that Super Bowl, or did Rex Grossman lose that Super Bowl?
Well,
Peyton Manning was the MVP of that Super Bowl.
He played a pretty good game. I think he threw an interception like his first pass, but after that he was pretty good.
Yeah, I think Peyton Manning only got the MVP because he was the quarterback of the winning team. I would have given it to Joseph Adai in that game, but
yeah.
The only 2 things I remember about that game are the Bears returning the opening kickoff for a touchdown.
Right, and scaring the living daylights out of me like, oh no. No.
But apparently Peyton Manning, it scared the living daylights out of Peyton Manning. I remember he was doing an interview and he was like, so what did you think when they returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown? He's like, well, damn.
Yeah, well, he probably didn't say what he was actually thinking. Was like, oh, fuck, are you kidding me? But that Super Bowl, though, speaking of Super Bowls, this is what I wanted to talk about a little bit about the Super Bowl. I think that Super Bowl is the best uniform matchup we've ever had in a Super Bowl, Bears-Colts.
Better than Packers-Chiefs?
Ooh. Well, now that you put it like that.
Other than Chiefs Vikings?
I've got to go. My favorite Super Bowl matchup of all time, and I can never remember the number. One of the late 20s, but it would be Bills Washington.
That was a good one.
Colts Jets.
That was a good one too.
Colts Cowboys.
I mean, I was actually thinking about this the other day, and when you really break it down, there are more bad Super Bowl matchups than there are good Super Bowl matchups in terms of uniforms.
Well,
like the bad ones, I would say Seattle Pittsburgh, Seattle Denver, Pittsburgh Arizona.
I think I would say that there's been more in the last 25 than in the first 25.
Yeah, the first 25 were all. I mean, it was almost impossible for them to be bad because there weren't any quote unquote modern uniforms or anything that was off the basic template at that point.
Right.
You know?
I think the first team that maybe had something different in the Super Bowl was probably the Elway Broncos, right?
Yeah, because they were the first team to go to the non-symmetrical stripes and that whole bit. Yeah.
The other. I will say that one of the earlier Super Bowls, one of my least favorite earlier Super Bowls would be Los Angeles Rams, Pittsburgh Steelers. And not that I dislike any uniform. I think each of the uniforms worn in that game are absolutely gorgeous on their own. It was just a bit too much yellow for me.
Yeah.
Because you got the Rams were in the white jerseys with the yellow pants, and the Steelers were in the black jerseys, yellow pants, and it was just a bit too much yellow for it to it just wasn't my ideal uniform matchup.
Actually, now that I think about it, I'm gonna retract my Colts Bears. I'm gonna go with Dolphins Vikings way back in like Super Bowl, was it 8 maybe? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
the undefeated. 7 was the undefeated, and then 8 was the repeat,
yeah, and that was because the Dolphins had basically the throwbacks that we saw when they played the Giants this year against the Vikings in their road uniforms, and it looked just really good, really nice matchup. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that it didn't
Chiefs
get so.
Vikings is also good. Chiefs Vikings before.
Yeah, that was a classic. But yeah, like Zach said though, I mean, it's really until the Broncos showed up in 96, 97?
It's 97 at the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, before that, it was all just traditional uniforms pretty much up and down the line. There were no monochrome, none of that stuff. I mean, other than white, obviously, but.
I'm going to be a Chargers fanboy and say that I think 29 was pretty good because you had the Chargers and their previous uniforms, which we didn't get a lot of love at the time, but I think their stock's really risen in comparison to the garbage they wear now.
Yeah.
You had the Chargers wearing, a very, classic look. They had a very classic look against the 49ers in those throwbacks, the drop shadow.
See, I didn't like those 49ers. They were okay, but I liked their – well, no, that was when they were wearing the they switched to the in-between, the two, but the current look and the pre – you know what I mean? The ones that they went through in the mid-'90s there. They switched to those in 94 yet or not?
No. In 94, they were still wearing the Montana era, but they
had the
throwbacks.
The 75th anniversary throwbacks, yeah.
Yeah,
everybody was doing that year.
And then the 90s 2000s look, that in between look that they had, that was based off basically merging the throwbacks and the Montana era look together.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I went to see the Browns play the Cardinals that year in 94, and I was living in Syracuse, and every year we take a bus down to Cleveland to go see one game a year, and we got there. And there were people in the stands going, hey, look, it's like because the Cardinals wore those crazy throwbacks that they had with like the khaki-looking pants and the little small number on the front and all that.
Yeah.
Small number on the front and like the million sleeve stripes with the double C logo on the
And somebody said, they go, the Browns didn't have to change anything about their uniforms. I'm like, no, they wore black shoes with gray face masks, and everybody looked at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's just pretty funny.
Who cares about face mask color?
Right, and I just told them, they're like,
nerd.
They were like all proud of themselves, like, yeah, the Browns never had to change their uniforms for a throwback. I'm like, oh, hold on a minute here. There's a lot of issues here. These are not the Browns' original.
Excuse me, the width of the stripes on the socks.
Right.
Changed it in 1987, so...
But yeah, I actually got to see those horrible Cardinals uniforms in person. That was pretty wild.
And you thought that would be the ugliest the Cardinals would ever look.
And there you have it. That is what we were able to salvage from last week's recording session. Apologies again for all the technical difficulties. Hopefully things will run a lot more smoothly this week. You know the routine by now. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Go to the website, basicallyasportshow.com. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and the YouTubes, and you can also find us on Facebook. All right, that's going to do it. We'll see you next time right here on Basically a Sports Show.